"Stop the cameras," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "Stop them now." For 40 years in television, Dr. Phil McGraw had never stopped a taping like this. The studio audience froze. Cameras stopped rolling. Producers rushed to their headsets. And in the center of it all sat Sarah, a 32-year-old woman clutching a manila envelope that contained a truth so devastating it would change everything. What had she just revealed about her father's hidden past that made Dr. Phil break every protocol? What was in that envelope? And why did the most experienced host on television decide that some stories are too important to tell under normal circumstances? The day had started like any other Tuesday taping of the Dr. Phil show. Sarah Martinez had flown in from Phoenix, Arizona, carrying emotional baggage that had weighed on her family for over 2 decades. She was there to discuss what she believed was a simple family conflict. Her father's sudden disappearance when she was 10 years old, and his recent attempt to reconnect. "My father left us when I was 10, Sarah had explained during pre-production interviews. "My mom told us he just wasn't ready to be a father. But now he's reaching out, and I don't know if I should forgive him or protect my family from him." It seemed like a straightforward case for Dr. Phil: abandonment issues, family reconciliation, forgiveness. The production team prepared standard talking points about healing and moving forward. But Sarah was holding something back, something that would turn this from a typical family therapy session into something unprecedented. As the cameras rolled that Tuesday afternoon, Sarah sat across from Dr. Phil in her navy blue dress, the manila envelope resting on her lap like a sleeping bomb. Dr. Phil began with his characteristic directness. "Sarah, you've carried this pain for 22 years. Your father walked out when you were just 10 years old. Tell me what you remember about that day." Sarah's voice was steady at first. "I remember him packing a single suitcase. He kissed my forehead and said he'd be back soon. That was the last time I saw him until 3 months ago. And now he wants back in your life?" "He does. He says he's changed. He says he had reasons for leaving that he can now explain." Sarah's hands tightened around the envelope. "Dr. Phil, there's something I haven't told anyone. Something I found out just 2 weeks ago." Dr. Phil leaned forward slightly. In his decades of experience, he had developed an instinct for when a conversation was about to shift from ordinary to extraordinary. "What did you find out, Sarah?" Sarah looked directly into his eyes. My father didn't just abandon us. He was running." "Running from what?" "From the FBI." The studio went completely silent. Dr. Phil's expression changed instantly. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. "Sarah," Dr. Phil said carefully, "what are you telling me?" Sarah's voice began to shake. 3 weeks ago, I hired a private investigator to find him before he contacted me. I wanted to know who I was really dealing with. What I found out." She lifted the envelope. "Dr. Phil, my father wasn't just a man who couldn't handle responsibility. He was a federal witness who disappeared from witness protection." The weight of those words settled over the studio like a heavy blanket. Dr. Phil had interviewed thousands of guests over 4 decades. He had heard confessions about affairs, addictions, crimes, and family secrets. But this was different. This was dangerous. "Sarah, I need you to be very specific. Are you telling me your father was in WITSEC?" "Yes." "And according to these documents," she held up the envelope, "the people he testified against, they were never caught." Dr. Phil's mind raced through the implications. If Sarah's father had been in witness protection and had now surfaced, if the people he testified against were still at large, if this information was being broadcast on national television. He looked toward the production booth. "Sarah, I need you to listen to me very carefully. What you're telling me right now." "There's more, Dr. Phil." Sarah's voice was stronger now, as if saying the truth out loud was giving her strength. "The private investigator found out why my father broke protocol. Why he left witness protection. Sarah, He found out they knew where we were. The people he testified against. They had found our house. My father didn't abandon us, Dr. Phil. He led them away from us. Off camera, Dr. Phil made a choice no producer expected. Hold on. Dr. Phil stood up from his chair. Sarah, I need you to stop talking right now. He looked directly at the cameras. Cut the feed. Now. The red recording lights went dark. The studio audience murmured in confusion. Dr. Phil walked over to Sarah and knelt beside her chair. Sarah, honey, do you understand what you just told me on camera? I need people to know the truth about my father. I need them to know he wasn't the coward everyone thinks he was. I understand that. But what you've just described. If those people are still out there, if your father's location is still sensitive. Dr. Phil looked toward his longtime producer, Frank. Frank, I need you to contact legal immediately. And I need you to make some calls. Dr. Phil turned back to Sarah. I've been doing this show for 20 years. I've never stopped a taping for security reasons. But your safety, your family's safety, that comes before any television show. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Dr. Phil, I just want people to understand. My whole life I've hated him for leaving us. But he saved us. He saved me and my mom and my little brother by making himself the target. I know, sweetheart. And we're going to help you tell this story. But we're going to do it the right way. Dr. Phil signaled to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to ask for your patience and your discretion. We're going to take a break while we sort through some things. As the audience was escorted out, Dr. Phil sat back down across from Sarah. The studio was now empty except for essential crew, the cameras were off, but the conversation was far from over. Sarah, show me what's in that envelope. With trembling hands, Sarah opened the manila envelope and pulled out a stack of documents. FBI letterheads. Witness protection transfer orders. And at the bottom, a handwritten note. This is from him, Sarah said, holding up a single piece of paper. From my father. The private investigator found it in his old apartment. Dr. Phil took the note and read it silently. After a moment, he looked up at Sarah. Sarah, this note, he knew. He knew they were closing in, and he knew the only way to protect you was to disappear. Read it out loud, Dr. Phil. Please. I want to hear someone else say the words. Dr. Phil cleared his throat. My beautiful Sarah, if you're reading this, it means you've found the truth. I know you must hate me. I know you must think I'm a coward who ran away from his responsibilities. But I need you to know that every day I've been away from you has been agony. I left because staying would have meant putting you, your mother, and your brother in danger. The men I testified against, they're ruthless. They would have used you to get to me. I couldn't let that happen. I hope someday you'll understand. I hope someday you'll forgive me. And I hope that when this is all over, when it's safe, I can be the father you deserved all along. I love you more than my own life. Dad. But what happened next is something no one in the room, or watching at home, saw coming. Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Dr. Phil, there's one more thing. He didn't just send that note to be found. He's been watching me. He knows I hired the investigator. And he knows I'm here today. She showed Dr. Phil her phone. There was a text message received just 20 minutes earlier, while they had been filming. Sarah, I'm watching the show. Please don't say anything more on television. Meet me at the address I'm about to send you. It's time for us to talk. Love, Dad. Dr. Phil stared at the phone. In 40 years of television, he had encountered every kind of human drama imaginable. But this was the first time he felt like he was part of something larger than a television show. This was real. This was dangerous. And this was happening right now. Sarah, your father is here? In Los Angeles? He drove here from wherever he's been hiding. He's been watching me try to find him, and when he realized I was going to be on your show, he came. Dr. Phil made another unprecedented decision. He called his head of security. Mike, I need you in the studio now. And I need you to bring everything. He looked at Sarah. We're not just doing television anymore. We're going to help you reunite with your father. But we're going to do it safely. Sarah began to cry. Dr. Phil, I've spent 22 years hating him. 22 years thinking he chose himself over us. And now I find out he chose us over himself every single day. That's what parents do, Sarah. The good ones anyway. They make impossible choices to protect their children. Dr. Phil's security chief, Mike Thompson, entered the studio with 2 additional security personnel. Mike, I need you to coordinate with federal authorities. We have a situation involving witness protection, and we need to make sure everyone involved stays safe. Already on it, Dr. Phil. I overheard enough to make some calls. FBI field office is sending agents over. Sarah looked panicked. FBI? Are you turning my father in? No, sweetheart. We're making sure that when you two reunite, it's in a place where both of you are safe. Where you can finally have the conversation you've needed to have for 22 years. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. 3 hours later, after coordination with federal authorities, after security sweeps, after careful planning, Sarah sat in a private room at the FBI field office in Los Angeles. Dr. Phil was there with her, along with federal agents and a family therapist who specialized in witness protection cases. The door opened, and a man in his 50s walked in. He was grayer than Sarah remembered, more weathered, but his eyes were the same eyes that had kissed her goodbye when she was 10 years old. Hi, baby girl, he said softly. Sarah stood up, and 22 years of anger, confusion, love, and loss poured out of her. Daddy? They embraced in the middle of that sterile federal office, NDR. Phil watched as the family began to heal from wounds that had been cut by circumstances beyond anyone's control. Later, as federal agents worked out the details of ongoing protection for Sarah's father, Dr. Phil sat with both of them. You know, he said, in 40 years of television, I've learned that the most powerful stories aren't the ones that make for good ratings. They're the ones that remind us what really matters. Family. Truth. Love. And sometimes, the incredible sacrifices parents make for their children. Sarah's father looked at Dr. Phil. Thank you for stopping the cameras. Thank you for understanding that this was bigger than television. That's what we do here. Dr. Phil replied. We put people first. Always. Sarah looked at her father, then at Dr. Phil. What happens now? Now you two get to know each other again. Slowly. Safely. With the support you need. Sarah's father reached into his jacket and pulled out something that made everyone in the room stop breathing. It was a small, worn photograph Sarah at age 10, sitting on his shoulders at a carnival. He had carried it with him for 22 years. I never stopped being your father, he whispered. Even when I couldn't be there, I was always watching over you from a distance. The hardest part wasn't leaving, it was staying away when all I wanted was to come home. Dr. Phil watched as Sarah took the photograph with trembling hands. You kept this? Every day. When I wanted to give up, when I wanted to risk everything just to see you again, I looked at this picture and reminded myself why I had to stay strong. Why I had to stay hidden. To keep you safe. The agents monitoring your father's case, Dr. Phil said, turning to the federal agent present. They'll need to evaluate the ongoing threat level before any permanent arrangements can be made. Agent Martinez nodded. We've been tracking the original case. Most of the organization your father testified against has been dismantled over the years. The remaining members are either in prison or deceased. We believe the immediate threat has been significantly reduced. Sarah looked between her father and Dr. Phil. Does this mean? It means we can start planning for a real relationship, her father said. With proper precautions, with ongoing monitoring, but a real relationship. Dr. Phil stood up and walked to the window overlooking downtown Los Angeles. After a moment, he turned back to the father and daughter. You know what I've learned in 4 decades of doing this work? The strongest families aren't the ones who never face adversity. They're the ones who find their way back to each other despite impossible odds. He returned to his seat and looked directly at Sarah. Your father made an impossible choice 22 years ago. He chose your safety over his own happiness. Over his own heart. That's not abandonment, Sarah. That's the deepest kind of love there is. But I spent so many years hating him. Sarah said through her tears. And now you get to spend however many years you have left loving him. Dr. Phil replied. That's the gift of understanding. That's the gift of truth. 6 months later, Sarah sent Dr. Phil a photo. It showed her, her father, her mother, and her brother at a family barbecue. On the back, she had written, "Thank you for helping us understand that sometimes love looks like leaving, and sometimes it looks like coming home." Dr. Phil kept that photo on his desk, next to the manila envelope now empty, but still a reminder of the day truth was more important than television. That's the power of putting people before production, always.